with the ongoing reforms in Nigeria's power sector, particularly the privatization of successor generation and distribution companies, there are expectations of a truly liberalized market in which consumers will mostly pay for the services that they enjoy, while service providers will strive for quality operations. The Nigerian Electricity Regulatory Commission was set up to undertake technical and economic regulation of this industry. The Commission is to license operators, determine operating codes and standards, establish customer rights and obligations, and set tariffs. NERC Chairman Dr. Sam Amadi is my guest today, and I'm delighted that he could join us. Thank you, Dr. Amadi.
Thank you very much.
And I thank you for joining us. Welcome. I'm Modele Sharafa Yusuf, and this is View from the Top. Dr. Amadi, most Nigerians thought that once the successor companies are handed over to their new owners, power supply will automatically improve. But they're already getting disillusioned. Is it a case of things getting worse before they get better?
Well, it depends on the benchmark for improvement. There are structural problems and limitations and constraints that handing over in 2 months' time, this is just the second month after handing over, you don't expect to solve. If there are low gas supply to power plants before handover, maybe because of contracted capacities less than the capacity to fire the power plants, or seasonal constraints, vandalism, or lack of pipeline leading to shutdown of constrained capacity. You don't expect those things to get solved in a matter of weeks. So if you also have seasonal rainfall problem with hydros, those problems don't get solved immediately. So but what's happening is that some of these drop in supply condition is because of structural problems, seasonal issues. So the new owners come on board and they are faced with this problem. They need to devise strategies to deal with them. Some of them are now being handled through expected improvement in facilities, gas supply, in terms of new facilities coming on board, in terms of improving the commerciality of gas to power. That's one component. The second component is that, so because of that, if we have shortfall in generation capacity, that means the available capacity to be distributed to Nigerians now is less than probably at a peak time in December 2012, when we hit 4,500 megawatts actual supply. So in a way, yes, things are not that things are deliberately bad in order to get better. Is that the only way to go is better, because with the existing structural problem and the answers being provided, with the commercial incentive to improve investment and improve services, we expect that there will be, as the new owners settle down and as the regulatory framework takes shape, we ramp up capacity, increase generation, NIPP power comes in, more gas goes to power plants, and then we improve, we get up to the standard capacity of those existing plants. With increase in megawatts, and then investment that the discos will make is strengthening the reliability, and investment coming on stream for transmission, that will be a more holistic improvement in reliability and adequacy as we look forward to a much more increased capacity by the end of the year and the beginning of the 2015.
How many megawatts need to be generated for there to be steady power supply and enough to go around? And when do you think Nigerians will be able to hit this?
With the targets set to have 14 to 16 hours supply of power across the country.
16 hours of supply across the country.
You would need perhaps more than 7,000 actual capacity delivery to get to that level. At the same time, we expect at the end of this year, with gas to power improving, we'll get about 7,000 megawatts. Now, if you look at suppressed demand, the amount of power that people need to survive, to engage economically, meaningfully, and also in their homes, you discover that we might need, even with 20,000, 30,000, 40,000 megawatts, we might not be approaching adequacy. And the reason is very obvious. Many people are on self-provisioning. Companies are run on partly generator, partly the grid. Now, as more power comes to the grid power is cheaper than self-generation. So most of those people who are hooked on providing for themselves some hours of electricity by themselves will now be more on the grid. So that's suppressed demand. Commercial activities that are 24 hours will require more power. So a place like Lagos, with the available 6,000 megawatts, for example, the Lagos state can take all and still ask for more. Because the more you have power, the more you need power. The more power intensive the economy becomes, the more companies come up on board, expansion in productivity, better use of power. So we think that essentially we need a lot more power to be totally adequate and have 24-hour supply. But even as we increase to 7,000, 6,000 megawatts, 7,000 megawatts, there will be no noticeable improvement in the hour of steady supply to most Nigerian cities and the environment.
Investors in the utility companies also expected certain conditions to have been met by the government upon taking ownership of their acquired assets. What are the challenges that they have complained about?
Well, investors, their foremost challenge is about getting their money for financing. Initially they came to this market, they're supposed to acquire the assets with largely their own equity, their own money. Many of them borrowed a lot of money, more than required, and they paid for the assets sometime in September, and then they got in November, and therefore many of them, by the time January has come in, they have the bankers have started calling on them, rescheduling of their debts and debt performance. So their first challenge was getting the money. How are we going to get this money for the market? How are we going to recover our investments? So right now, it was more like a contagion. They are worried. So we had to, kind of sit down and work out with them to give confidence to the market, for them to see how they can recover their costs. And by managing and making other investments, they have hope that they are going to recover cost. The basic elementary rule of this market is cost recovery. So that's their first challenge, is how do we recover the money we have invested. The legacy issues about labor and all that, they are concerned about how do we manage labor expectation. The severance package, some of the lower workers in PSN, by the time they look at, some of them still have leftovers of staff who have not yet been severed, and therefore they are concerned about their severance package. So some of these are some of the issues that they're worried about. They're also worried about the rules in the market. They were looking towards a traditional electricity market, and then there were issues around the interim rules that will govern the market before the minister declares a traditional electricity market. So these are some of the issues: governance in the market, financial viability, and of course the huge expectation of consumers for service delivery and affordable tariff became also an issue that they need to grapple with.
What effort is NERC making to protect consumers in this new market?
The most important thing the consumer wants is adequacy, supply. So we are concerned that the supply continues. Second is affordability tariff. We are also concerned that no matter, because the new owners are also concerned about losses and escalating costs, we want to ensure that the tariffs are affordable and are as announced by NERC. We are also concerned with metering and billing the system, some estimated billing issues about dispute resolution. We set up forum offices to help consumers petition for violation of their rights, and so these are some of the issues that the consumers are taking up.
What are their obligations, and are they being educated along these lines?
Yeah, we have power consumer assemblies. We have enlightenment campaign. We have outreaches to consumers. and then we get civil society groups involved in the process of rulemaking. They're also part of their rights and basic responsibilities, which we advertise and educate them so they know exactly what rights they have and obligations they have in the market. And because we bring the forum offices to their neighborhood, they're able to know where to ventilate their grievances.
So these forum offices are the only redress mechanisms that are available to...
The operators have the consumer complaint unit. It's when it fails, we go to the forum office. When forum office fails, we go to a superior court, which is the commission. We have a three approach. First is the consumer complaint management unit. So each distribution company has a unit that manages complaint. After 2 weeks, if there are no answers, you go to forum office, which is manned by stakeholder representation from Nigerian Society of Engineers, NASIMA industrialists, civil society groups in their place, Consumer Protection Council representatives and all that. So they have their own chairman and they conduct quick judicial proceedings to determine complaints and settle disputes. It's when it fails that the consumer can petition to the commission for full hearing.